Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take your curiosity, your sources, and really try to unearth the most vital insights.
Glad to be here.
Today, we're diving into something that's, well, it's truly electrifying the medical world. Artificial intelligence. Specifically large language models, or LLMs.
Yeah, it's hard to miss the buzz right now.
Absolutely. Since, early 2023, there's been this, one source calls it unprecedented momentum, a kind of cascading enthusiasm for LLMs. You see it everywhere, journals, social media, the news.
It feels like they're popping up all over clinical practice.
Exactly. From helping out with, documentation, maybe even supporting diagnostics.
Right.
Okay, so let's maybe unpack this a little. While all this excitement, it definitely reflects some genuine leaps in technology, the stakes here are just incredibly high. We're talking about human lives.
Fundamentally, yes.
So how are these findings, these exciting developments, actually being evaluated?
Yeah.
And, crucially, communicated, especially when there's so much on the line?
That's really the core question, isn't it? And what's fascinating, I think, is that the main challenge isn't just like managing the sheer speed of development.
Yeah.
It's more about making sure that the reported capabilities of these LLMs truly line up with real-world value.
Ah, the gap between promise and reality.
Precisely. We're seeing this growing disconnect between the tech promises and actual meaningful outcomes, and that, frankly, it risks creating a pretty significant trust deficit down the road.
A trust deficit, that sounds serious.
It is. So our goal here in this deep dive is really to explore how we might, bridge that gap.
Okay, so if I'm hearing you right, you're suggesting the excitement, the hype maybe, might be getting a little bit ahead of the actual solid evidence.
I think that's a really critical observation, yeah. Look, preclinical studies, simulation studies, the research done in labs or on models before you get to human trials, they're valuable. They're an important first step, no question.
Right, you need that foundation.
You do. However, we're seeing this concerning trend where conclusions drawn from these types of studies are often overstated.
Yeah.
Or the way the evidence level is represented is, well, frankly, misleading.
And this is where it gets really important, I think, for listeners to pay attention. Our source points out that sometimes these preliminary results, these simulations, they're being described using terms like randomized controlled trials.
Yes. Or randomized clinical trials.
But they're often synthetic. Right.
Mm-hmm.
They bear very little resemblance to how a real-world clinical trial actually works.
Exactly. And that labeling, when it's done without a really clear, explicit acknowledgement that these are preclinical, it just becomes a misnomer. It can genuinely mislead people.
And the risk there is huge.
It's particularly risky because most readers, clinicians, policymakers, the broader healthcare community, they often encounter these papers in high-impact journals with massive visibility.
So if you're a busy doctor, maybe you just skim the title, the abstract. You might miss the fine print.
That's precisely the danger. That kind of superficial engagement means the crucial methodological details, the important limitations, they might just not register. And as a result, claims about effectiveness or clinical applicability, they might just be taken at face value, even with significant limitations, or the fact that the evidence is really preliminary.
So it just fuels the hype cycle.
It fuels the hype cycle without meeting the really rigorous standards this moment demands, and that genuinely threatens to erode trust. It could lead to, misguided decisions, maybe even compromised patient outcomes.
Okay, so beyond just how these studies are labeled, our source also flags another challenge. What exactly are we choosing to measure in the first place?
Yes. This raises an absolutely vital question. Are we selecting the right outcome measures?
What do you mean?
Well, there's currently a very heavy reliance on computational metrics, things like accuracy percentages or maybe surrogate endpoints.
Okay, things that are easy to count.
Yeah, exactly. They're easy to quantify, easy to measure, but they might not actually reflect what truly matters for patient care or, have a meaningful clinical impact.
This sounds familiar, almost like a pattern we've seen before. The source mentions a kind of historical lesson from oncology research.
Right. The pressure to speed up cancer trials sometimes led to relying too heavily on surrogate endpoints, things that could be measured quicker than, say, overall survival.
And those surrogates didn't always predict real benefit.
They couldn't consistently predict actual patient benefit, no, not in terms of living longer or having a better quality of life.
Wow. And you see a parallel here with LLMs.
The parallel is concerning, absolutely. It's a powerful lesson we really can't afford to ignore. Think about it. LLM applications touch so many different groups.
Like who?
Well, you've got healthcare providers wrestling with documentation burnout, right?
Yeah.
You've got administrators looking for system efficiencies. And then, of course, you have patients, individuals trying to navigate complex medical information.
And they all care about different things.
Exactly. Each group demands different evaluation criteria, different success metrics. So something that looks fantastic computationally, like a high accuracy score, might not actually solve a real-world problem for a patient or a clinician.
Okay, so given all this,
Mm.
these challenges with labeling, with metrics,
Mm.
what does this mean for moving forward? How do we, build that trust
Yeah.
or rebuild it?
Yeah, the path forward, it really requires us to establish clear standards. Standards for what counts as meaningful clinical evidence in LLM medical research.
What would that involve?
Well, it includes developing robust frameworks, ways to clearly distinguish between a simulation study and a proper randomized controlled trial. It means setting up appropriate comparators. What are we comparing these new tools against?
Right.
And crucially, defining clinically relevant outcome measures, what actually matters to patients and doctors.
That sounds like a pretty enormous task. How do we even begin to get there?
It absolutely has to be a collaborative effort. No single group can do this alone. We need to bring together insights from, clinical research methodology, implementation science, established AI evaluation frameworks.
So pulling expertise from different fields.
Exactly. And the source highlights that other medical fields facing complex evaluation problems have successfully done this. Think about the oncology community again.
With those big collaborative groups.
Precisely. Groups like the Children's Oncology Group, Alliance for Clinical Trials in Oncology, NRG Oncology, ECOG-ACRIN, the Southwest Oncology Group. These networks, they've successfully established consensus frameworks. They agree on clinically meaningful outcomes and how to prioritize trials.
That parallel with oncology is really insightful. It shows it can be done, even with
Yeah.
complex systems.
It absolutely can, and similar collaborative approaches could massively benefit healthcare AI. There are emerging initiatives like the Trustworthy and Responsible AI Network Train that offer promising models for coordinating efforts across different institutions.
So creating platforms for people to work together.
Yes, platforms where diverse stakeholders, researchers, clinicians, patients, developers, policymakers can truly collaborate to set these vital priorities.
It makes sense, but there's this tension, isn't there? The tech world often has that motto, move fast and break things. In healthcare, though, breaking things can have devastating consequences. How do we find that balance between rapid innovation and patient safety?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Healthcare absolutely requires a much more nuanced approach, one that carefully balances rapid advancement with safety and fundamentally evidence-based practice.
And the current situation isn't quite there.
Well, this blurred line we've been talking about between simulation and real clinical validation is partly driven by that accelerated pace, the intense competition in AI research.
Right.
You see preliminary findings, maybe just posted as preprints online, getting widespread media attention before they've gone through proper peer review and validation.
But at the same time, we can't just slam on the brakes indefinitely, can we? That could stifle innovation that might genuinely help people.
You're absolutely right. The field can't afford to unnecessarily constrain real innovation within sort of outdated validation frameworks.
But what's the answer?
So a thoughtful, intelligent approach to generating evidence remains key. And what that specifically means, I think, is implementing a risk-stratified validation method.
Risk stratified, so different approaches for different levels of risk.
Exactly. High-stakes implementations, things with potential patient safety implications, they absolutely warrant rigorous clinical trials. No shortcuts.
Makes sense.
But on the other hand, lower risk applications, maybe administrative tools or certain types of documentation aids, they could appropriately go through alternative validation pathways, maybe faster ones.
Okay, so tailor the scrutiny to the potential harm.
Precisely. Simulation studies remain valuable tools, don't get me wrong. They're great for efficient initial evaluation, for planning bigger trials, but their results have to be clearly and unequivocally differentiated from actual clinical validation. We need to prevent those premature assumptions of real-world effectiveness.
This really feels like it's not just on the researchers or just the tech companies. It feels like a shared responsibility.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
Researchers, publishers, the technology developers themselves, everyone involved shares a profound responsibility. A responsibility to communicate findings with precision, with integrity.
So resisting the urge to oversell.
Absolutely. Resisting the temptation to chase short-term gains through overstatement or, spin. This is so critical because honestly, when it comes to trust in medicine,
No.
you often only get one shot.
Right.
Overstated claims, misleading headlines, they could easily trigger a crisis of confidence, one that sets back medical AI innovation not just by years, but potentially by decades.
So the primary obligation isn't just speed or being first to market. It's got to be patient care and scientific truth.
Exactly, that has to be the foundation. By establishing these robust evaluation frameworks, by insisting on responsible communication practices, we can genuinely harness these transformative technologies. But we have to do it while maintaining the trust that is the absolute bedrock of medical practice.
So the path isn't a race.
The path to successful LLM integration isn't about racing to publication. It's about methodical, rigorous evaluation and transparent communication. That's how we ensure these incredibly powerful tools genuinely advance medicine for everyone.
So thinking about our listeners, people trying to stay well-informed in this, incredibly fast-moving world, what does this all mean for you?
Well, I think this deep dive really highlights that while the enthusiasm for medical AI is definitely warranted in many ways, critical thinking is more important now than ever before.
Don't just believe the hype.
Exactly. When you encounter claims about a new medical AI breakthrough, just pause. Ask yourself, is this based on real-world evidence from a proper trial, or is it coming from a simulation?
And are the results actually meaningful?
Right. Are the outcomes truly meaningful for patients, for clinicians, or are they mainly computational metrics like accuracy scores that might not translate directly?
It really is about looking beyond the headlines, isn't it? Understanding the actual evidence underneath.
It is. The medical community, and indeed all of us, stand at a really crucial juncture here. Maintaining trust in these powerful new innovations is paramount.
So maybe a final thought for our listeners.
Yeah, maybe consider how you personally can contribute to fostering that culture of trust. What questions will you bring to the table the next time you hear about a medical AI breakthrough?
Because it's not just about the tech.
No. Ultimately, it's about ensuring these incredibly powerful tools genuinely serve humanity, not just generate fleeting excitement or hype.